For every darts pro loved by fans, there's another who is hated. Some win hearts with humility, others lose the crowd with every glare, every celebration, every word they say. This is the sharp divide in darts, from icons to villains, and today we're breaking down the most loved and most hated players in the sport. Fallon Sherrock didn't just make history, she changed the sport forever. Before 2019, most casual darts fans couldn't name a single female player. But all that changed the moment Fallon stepped up to the Oki at Alexandra Palace and took down Ted Yvetz in the first round of the PDC World Championship.
Game, shot. And Fallon Sherrock smashes the glass ceiling and wins at the World Darts Championship. The first woman to beat a man at the World Darts Championship.
The crowd went wild, commentators were stunned, and then she did it again, defeating world number 11 Mensur Suljovic in the next round. It wasn't a fluke, it was a statement, and it earned her a nickname that would follow her forever, the Queen of the Palace. What made fans love her was the way she handled the pressure. A single mum from Milton Keynes, Fallon wasn't supposed to win. She was the underdog, the wild card, but she stayed calm, graceful, laser-focused. She didn't roar or punch the air, she smiled, stepped forward and played her game. That humility won fans over instantly. Social media exploded, TV interviews, talk shows, even people who didn't follow darts knew her name. But with the fame came pressure, and eventually a little pushback. Some questioned whether she deserved wildcard entries into future tournaments. Others felt the attention she got overshadowed more established players. But despite that noise, her fanbase never wavered. Her Grand Slam of Darts performance proved she could still hang with the elite. And even when she loses, crowds still chant her name. For many fans, Fallon represents possibility. She shattered expectations, broke barriers, and inspired a generation of young girls to pick up a dart. She isn't just a player, she's a symbol. And to millions of darts fans, she's a legend already in the making. Gerwyn Price didn't ease his way into darts, he barged in. A former rugby player turned darts pro, Price brought something that not everyone was ready for: raw aggression. He didn't just celebrate after big shots, he roared, fist pumps, shouts, stares, and while some fans admired the intensity, others saw it as disrespect. At first he was just loud, then came the controversy. In 2018, Price faced Gary Anderson in the Grand Slam final, and it exploded. The match turned hostile. There were bumps, words exchanged, visible tension between throws. Anderson accused Price of over-celebrating and gamesmanship. The crowd turned instantly. Boos echoed with every dart Price threw, and they haven't stopped since. That final earned him a record fine, which was later reduced on appeal, but the damage was done. Gerwyn Price wasn't just disliked, he was now the pantomime villain of darts. He's since leaned into that role, and it's only amplified the division. At the World Championship in 2023, he wore ear defenders on stage to block out the crowd. It backfired. He lost the match and was mocked endlessly online. Some fans called it childish, others said it was understandable, but almost everyone had an opinion. And that's the thing with Gerwyn Price. You either love the fire or you hate the flames. To his credit, his skill is undeniable. A former world champion, one of the most consistent players in the game. But for many fans, it's not about averages or trophies, it's about attitude. And with Gerwyn Price, every walk-on feels like it could start a fight. Wayne Mardle never won a world title, but he still became one of the most beloved figures in darts. During his playing days, he wasn't known for dominance, he was known for entertainment. With his signature Hawaiian shirts, energetic walk-ons, and infectious personality, Mardle turned every match into a party. He wasn't trying to intimidate, he was trying to enjoy it and make sure everyone else did too. Fans loved him for it. He danced to the Oki, smiled through the pressure, throw with flair, even when he was behind. He reached 5 PDC World Championship semi-finals, but it was never just about results. It was the way he played the game, with heart, humour and human vulnerability. But if Mardle was loved as a player, he's become iconic as a commentator. Since stepping behind the mic for Sky Sports, he's brought that same passion and energy into every broadcast. And in 2023, he gave fans one of the most unforgettable moments in darts commentary history. When Michael Smith hit a 9-darter during one of the greatest legs ever played, Mardle lost control.
Come on, Spolly boy! Yes, double 12! That is the most amazing leg
His voice cracked, his eyes welled up. And in that moment, every fan at home felt the same thing. That one line became a viral sensation, but it wasn't a performance. It was pure, unfiltered love for the sport. Wayne Mardle is one of the few figures in darts who's universally liked. He's emotional, honest, and always puts the fans first. Whether he's on the stage or behind the mic, he reminds everyone why they fell in love with the game in the first place. Peter Manley didn't earn boos by accident, he earned them on purpose. In the early 2000s, Manley became the original villain of darts, long before walk-on music and fancy lights turned players into entertainers. He wasn't just competitive, he was calculating, antagonistic, a master of mind games who knew exactly how to get under people's skin, and no moment defined him more than the 2002 World Championship final. After losing to Phil Taylor, again, Manley refused to shake his hand, live on TV, on the biggest stage in darts. It was a gesture that sent shockwaves through the sport. Fans were stunned, commentators were furious, and from that point on, the boos never stopped. But Manley didn't hide from it, he embraced it. He styled himself as a heel, a kind of darts anti-hero. He smirked when crowds jeered. He wound up opponents mid-match. Some fans respected the gamesmanship, most didn't. He earned the nickname One Dart, not just for his double-hitting precision, but for how often he'd stir tension with just a single glance. Even his peers weren't always fans. There were quiet mutterings about stalling tactics, mind games, and how difficult he could be on stage. But here's the thing, love him or hate him, people reacted. He made darts more dramatic, more heated, more human. Peter Manley wasn't there to make friends, he was there to win, to rattle, to disrupt. And for a generation of darts fans, he became the man they loved to hate, and the player who taught them what a proper villain looked like. Michael Smith didn't have it easy. He wasn't an overnight sensation. He was the guy who got close, again and again and again. Before he lifted the World Championship trophy in 2023, Smith had lost in 8 major finals, each one more painful than the last. And every time, he walked off the stage with class. No excuses, no drama, just a handshake and a look that said, "I'll be back." That's why fans love him. Smith became a symbol of resilience. He didn't whine, he didn't blame bad luck. He kept grinding, kept believing. And when he finally won, beating Michael van Gerwen in one of the greatest legs in darts history, the darts world exploded. The 9-darter, it was a moment where Smith delivered on years of promise, with the whole world watching.
Is this it? He was born to be a world champion, and he has filled his darting destiny. Michael Smith has fulfilled his dreams.
But it's more than just the darts. Smith is grounded, a devoted family man, proud of his wife and kids. He talks openly about pressure, about self-doubt, about being his own worst critic. It makes him real, someone fans can relate to. He's the kind of guy who shows respect on stage, laughs at himself in interviews, and signs autographs until the lights go out. Even his rivals root for him, because when Michael Smith wins, it feels like the good guy finally came out on top. He might be called Bully Boy, but to darts fans, he's one of the sport's true gentlemen. At his peak, Paul Nicholson wasn't just trying to win matches, he was trying to rattle cages. Known as the Asset, Nicholson burst onto the scene in the late 2000s with a style that was bold, brash, and unapologetically confrontational. Spiky hair, sharp suits, cold stares. He strutted to the oche like a man on a mission, not just to beat his opponent, but to make sure they knew they'd been beaten. And in 2010, he got his moment. He stunned the darts world by winning the Players' Championship finals, taking out Phil Taylor along the way.
He's missed 2, a double top.
40.
It's your greatest hour. 2 at 10s. 1 at 5s. Extraordinary! Exceptional! Emotional! Power cut!
But it wasn't just the victory that got people talking. It was the attitude, trash talk, glares. Nicholson carried himself like darts' answer to a wrestling villain, and fans didn't hold back. Crowds booed, comment sections blew up. Forum threads were flooded with debate. Was he good for the game, or was he dragging it down? He once said, "I'm not here to make friends, I'm here to win a darts tournament." And that summed it up perfectly. To some, he was a breath of fresh air. Finally, a bit of swagger in a sport filled with quiet, unassuming characters. But to many others, he came off arrogant, disrespectful, and hard to cheer for. Over time, results dried up and the persona faded. Nicholson eventually moved into commentary, where he's become more respected and measured. But during his peak, there was no middle ground. You either liked the drama, or you couldn't wait to see him lose. In a sport full of big personalities, loud walk-ons, and emotional outbursts, Johnny Clayton stands out by doing none of that. He doesn't shout, he doesn't throw tantrums, he just smiles, steps up, and delivers. Nicknamed the Ferret, Clayton has quietly become one of the most respected and well-liked players on the circuit. And it's not just because of his darts, though he's won a Premier League title, the World Cup of Darts, and multiple majors. It's because of the way he carries himself. Whether he's winning or losing, Clayton stays composed. No mind games, no drama. He always shakes hands, always shows respect. And the fans have noticed, he gets cheered in every arena, even when he's playing against hometown favourites. There's no tribalism when Clayton's on stage, just appreciation. He's a part-time plasterer from Wales who never let fame change him. Even at the top of the game, he's stayed grounded, still working, still humble, still smiling like a man who just loves the sport. Players speak highly of him too. Ask around the tour and you'll hear the same thing. He's just a good bloke. He's the kind of player who could beat your hero and still earn your applause. Clayton doesn't demand attention. He earns admiration, quietly, consistently, and completely. Ted Hankey wasn't just disliked, he was booed almost every time he stepped on stage. And unlike some players who won the crowd over with time, Hankey only seemed to drift further into villain territory. Nicknamed the Count, Hankey leaned into a dark, gothic persona, long black cloak, slow walk-ons, and a death stare that could freeze a room. But his issues with the crowd went far beyond theatrics. Hankey had a reputation for being irritable, argumentative, and prone to complete meltdowns during matches. He would stop mid-leg to glare at hecklers, throw up his arms, or mutter complaints under his breath. In one infamous match at Lakeside, he accused fans of deliberately blowing whistles to put him off. He was so rattled, he threw darts while visibly shaking with frustration. And then there was his pace, slow, deliberate, agonizing at times. It drove opponents and fans mad. But the boos didn't just come from his behavior on stage. In later years, Hankey's reputation took a much darker turn.
Former world darts champion Ted Hankey has been jailed for 2 years for a sexual assault caught on camera.
In 2022, he was convicted of sexual assault after CCTV footage showed him attacking a woman in her own home. He was sentenced to 2 years in prison, and any goodwill that may have remained evaporated instantly. For many fans, Hankey went from a moody, frustrating character to someone they couldn't even tolerate seeing on a stage. His fall from grace wasn't dramatic. It was absolute. He might have been a world champion, but to most darts fans today, Ted Hankey's legacy is one of wasted talent, self-destruction, and disgrace. In just a matter of months, Luke, the Nuke Littler, has gone from a teenager with potential to the most talked about name in darts. At 16, he stunned the world by reaching the PDC World Championship final in his debut appearance, taking out seasoned pros with ice-cold finishing and fearless scoring power. No nerves, no excuses, just darts of the highest level. But fans didn't just fall in love with his game, they fell in love with his attitude. Calm under pressure, honest in interviews, funny, sharp, and completely unfiltered. He walked into a media circus and handled it like a seasoned pro. Crowds chant his name everywhere he plays, not just in the UK, across Europe, in Premier League nights, and even online. His following on social media exploded. Clips of his celebrations, his gaming habits, and his walk-ons now rack up millions of views. And speaking of gaming, that's part of the charm. This is a kid who spends his downtime playing FIFA, eating kebabs, and joking around on TikTok. He's not trying to act like a superstar, he's just being himself, and fans love that. Older darts fans admire his raw talent. Younger fans see themselves in him. And players? They're taking him very seriously. Even when he loses, he takes it on the chin. No drama, no excuses, just a shrug, a smile, and a warning that he'll be back. Luke Littler isn't just the future of darts, he's the present. And right now, he might be the most universally loved player on the planet. Stephen Bunting doesn't fit the mold of a modern darts star, and that's exactly why fans adore him. He's not brash, he's not intense, he's not trying to play the villain, he's just Bunting. Nicknamed the Bullet, Stephen burst onto the scene with his BDO World Championship win in 2014, a moment that instantly made fans sit up and take notice. But it wasn't just the title that won people over, it was the man behind the darts. Bunting walks on with a grin, he throws with rhythm, and he reacts like a bloke in the pub who just can't believe he's beaten the best in the world. There's an everyman quality to him. He's not the loudest, not the flashiest, but when he's on, Bunting plays a beautiful game, smooth, composed, clinical, and he's had to fight to stay there. After bursting onto the PDC scene with high hopes, his career didn't always follow a straight path. A string of tough defeats, injuries, and a particularly difficult run in the Premier League had many wondering if the Bullet had misfired. But Bunting never gave up. Instead of lashing out or making excuses, he dug in and turned things around. And in one of the most satisfying moments of his career, he sealed a nightly win in Week 9 in Berlin. That humility, that refusal to act like a superstar, is part of why fans connect with him so deeply. And it doesn't end on the stage. Bunting runs a YouTube channel where he chats darts, shares behind-the-scenes glimpses, and opens up in a way most pros never do. No PR polish, no media training, just Stephen being Stephen, warm, genuine, and always grateful for the support. Win or lose, he shows nothing but respect. His interviews are full of gratitude, self-awareness, and that signature down-to-earth charm. When he broke down in tears after a career-defining win at the 2023 World Championship, darts fans everywhere felt it. Not just because it was a big win, but because it meant something to him. And that emotion, that honesty, made people love him even more. Stephen Bunting might not have the biggest trophy cabinet, but in the eyes of the fans, he's already a champion. Justin Pipe didn't just lose the crowd, he lost their respect. Once ranked among the top 10 in the world, Pipe was known for his ultra-slow, methodical throwing style. For many fans, it was unbearable. Nicknamed the Force, his pace could grind a match to a halt, turning what should have been a thrilling contest into a frustrating waiting game. Opponents complained, crowds groaned, commentators danced around the issue, but fans didn't hold back. And then came the controversy that sealed his reputation. In the first round of the 2018 World Championship, Pipe faced Bernie Smith in what should have been a forgettable match. But with Smith preparing to throw a crucial dart, Pipe appeared to cough loudly during his backswing. The moment went viral. Slow motion replays showed the perfectly timed interruption. Some called it gamesmanship, others called it blatant cheating. The backlash was instant. Fans flooded forums and social media, slamming Pipe for what they saw as one of the dirtiest moves on the big stage. He denied doing it on purpose, but by then, the damage was done. From that point on, Justin Pipe wasn't just slow, he was loathed. Every cough, every pause, every dart he threw was met with suspicion. The crowd turned cold, his ranking slipped, his appearances dwindled. For some players, being hated is part of the show, a role they embrace. But with Justin Pipe, the boos weren't theatrical, they were personal. And for a lot of darts fans, his legacy is not about what he won, it's about the match he ruined. Nathan Aspinall isn't just a top-tier darts player. He's a reminder that hard work, humility, and heart still mean something in this game. Before the major titles and walk-ons to roaring crowds, Aspinall was just a regular lad from Stockport, juggling jobs and grinding away on the dart scene, trying to make ends meet. There were moments when he nearly walked away from the sport altogether. Money was tight, results weren't coming, and the dream felt far away. But then came the breakthrough. In 2019, he stunned the darts world by winning the UK Open, a run that changed everything. He wasn't supposed to win, he wasn't even on most people's radar, but he played fearless darts, took out heavyweights, and lifted the trophy with tears in his eyes and the world at his feet. From that moment on, fans took notice. But it's not just his darts that make Aspinall beloved, it's him. He's a family man who wears his heart on his sleeve. He's never afraid to show emotion, whether it's joy, frustration, or raw gratitude. After every big win, his first thought is usually for his kids, his wife, or the people who stuck by him when things were rough. And he's brutally honest. He talks openly about the mental side of the sport, the nerves, the self-doubt, the pressure of performing week in and week out. He's even spoken about the fear of developing dartitis, a condition that has derailed careers and haunted players across generations. That level of honesty makes him relatable in a world full of polished pros and rehearsed answers. On the oki, Aspinall brings energy. He celebrates big moments, hypes up the crowd, and fights for every leg like it's his last. But he does it without arrogance. He's fiery, but never disrespectful. Competitive, but never cocky. And even when the results dip, even when the form disappears, the fans stay with him, because they know Nathan Aspinall never phones it in. He gives everything he has, every single match. In a sport where personality matters just as much as performance, Aspinall is one of the few who's got both. There was a time when Adrian Lewis was seen as the future of darts. Back-to-back world titles, explosive scoring, natural talent that even Phil Taylor praised. But somewhere along the way, the love ran out. Known as Jackpot, Lewis had one of the smoothest throws in the game. Effortless, fluid, and capable of reeling off 180 after 180 without breaking a sweat. His 2011 and 2012 World Championship wins made him a star, and for a brief moment, it looked like he was on track to become one of the greats. But that version of Lewis didn't last. What followed was a career defined by inconsistency, attitude problems, and a growing disconnect with fans. On-stage arguments became more frequent. His body language, slumped shoulders, sarcastic smirks, exaggerated reactions started to wear thin, and when the results dipped, the frustration spilled over. He clashed with players, he clashed with officials, and most of all, he clashed with the crowd. One infamous moment came at the 2017 UK Open when Lewis was accused of aggressive behaviour following a heated exchange with Jose Justicia. He was suspended and fined after the match, another black mark in a career that fans had once pinned so much hope on. And while some still defend him, saying he's just misunderstood or emotional, for many darts fans, the excuses have run out. Adrian Lewis had the talent, he had the trophies, he had the chance to carry the torch for the next generation. But instead of becoming a fan favourite, he became a cautionary tale, a player whose antics overshadowed his achievements. When he plays now, reactions are split. Some cheer, hoping to see a spark of the old Jackpot. Others boo, not because of who he used to be, but because of who he became. Before the lights, the walk-ons, and the big money sponsorships, there was the crafty Cockney. Eric Bristow didn't just play darts, he built it. In the 1980s, darts was still finding its identity. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't global. It was smoky pubs, flat caps, and pint glasses. And then Bristow stepped up to the oki, oozing swagger, full of confidence, with a throw that looked as casual as it was deadly. He wasn't just winning titles, he was shaping the future of the game. 5 world championships, 5 world masters, a player who made dominance look effortless and pressure look like a joke. But Bristow wasn't loved just for the trophies. He was loved for being Eric. Cocky, absolutely. Outspoken, always. But he backed it up every time. And beneath the bravado was a player who changed lives. He mentored a young Phil Taylor, spotting the potential long before the rest of the world caught on. He offered advice, encouragement, and famously, his own money to get Taylor's career off the ground. Without Bristow, there might never have been a Taylor. Fans respected him because he never pretended to be anything he wasn't. He spoke his mind, played his heart out, and gave the sport character at a time when it desperately needed it. Even in his later years, long after the title stopped coming, Bristow remained a fixture in the world of darts. His presence at events, his commentary, his sharp wit and unfiltered honesty. He wasn't just a player, he was a symbol of everything darts used to be. Raw, passionate, unpredictable. Eric Bristow didn't just win over fans, he helped create them. Adam Smith Neale's rise was fast, but his fall was faster. In 2018, he shocked the darts world by winning the World Masters, a 6-4 victory over Glenn Durrant, and just like that, the nickname Big Dog was on everyone's lips. But it didn't take long for things to unravel. Less than a year after that career-defining win, Smith Neale suffered a serious injury. He broke his leg after a drunken fall during a tournament trip to Italy. The damage was severe enough that he appeared at the BDO World Championship on crutches, and unsurprisingly, crashed out in the first round. The injury slowed him down, but the behaviour that followed, that's what lost the fans. In 2024, during the new Neaton Darts Open, Smith Neale was involved in a shocking incident, punching his opponent after a match. The clip spread quickly online. There was no ambiguity, no room for excuses. It was an ugly, violent moment, and it resulted in an 8-month suspension. The backlash was immediate. Darts fans, already lukewarm on Smith Neale, turned ice cold. A petition was launched to ban him from professional play altogether. Online forums lit up with criticism. Even among darts' more forgiving fanbase, patience ran out. It wasn't just a bad look. It was the kind of behavior that crosses a line in any sport, let alone one that relies on discipline, respect, and mental strength. Smith-Neale may have talent, he may even find form again, but with a track record like his, for most darts fans, he's already crossed the line for good. You can't talk about darts without mentioning Phil Taylor. You can try, but the conversation always finds its way back to him. Nicknamed The Power, Taylor wasn't just good, he was a one-man era. 16 world titles, 8 consecutive wins, over 80 televised titles in total. For 2 decades, he made winning look inevitable, routine, boring even, but it was anything but boring. Taylor played with surgical precision, he dismantled opponents, he didn't just beat the best, he crushed them, leg after leg, match after match, year after year. And fans, they watched in awe. He wasn't flashy, he wasn't loud, he just threw darts like a machine, and when it mattered most, he never missed. But what makes Phil Taylor loved isn't just the dominance, it's the legacy. He took darts out of the pub and into the mainstream. He brought professionalism, fitness, and discipline to a sport that was still shaking off its smoky backroom roots. He raised the standard and made everyone else rise to meet it. Even his rivals respected him. Raymond van Barneveld, Dennis Priestley, John Part. They all knew if you wanted to be the best, you had to go through the power, and most of the time, you didn't make it through. Away from the oche, Taylor always carried himself like a man who understood the weight of what he'd built. He gave credit where it was due, he shook hands, he stayed humble in victory, and there were a lot of victories. Even now, in retirement, he still draws the biggest cheers at exhibitions. Fans line up for autographs, for selfies, for just a moment with the greatest to ever do it. Because Phil Taylor isn't just the best darts player of all time, he's the reason darts became what it is. Jelle Klaasen had all the tools to become a darts superstar. In 2006, he shocked the world by winning the BDO World Championship at just 21 years old, the youngest ever to do it. Smooth throw, confident walk-on, a fearless playing style. Klaasen looked like the next big thing, but the promise faded quickly. After switching to the PDC, his performances became inconsistent, the hype dwindled. He struggled to string together deep runs in major events, and fans began to lose interest. He wasn't disliked, just forgettable, until the scandal hit. In 2012, Klaasen was convicted of sending explicit messages to an underage girl. He pled guilty in court and received a suspended sentence. Though he issued an apology, the damage was irreversible. For many fans, that was the end of the road. The booze started, sponsors disappeared, his name became synonymous with shame rather than success. And unlike other players who've stirred controversy through mind games or antics, Klaasen's situation was darker and far less forgivable. The darts community, known for its loyalty and second chances, turned away. Fans didn't just dislike him, they wanted him gone. Since then, Klaasen has tried to rebuild his career. He still competed, still played on tour, but the crowds haven't forgotten, neither have the headlines. For a player who once seemed destined for greatness, Jelle Klaasen will likely be remembered for the wrong reasons. Not for the title he won, but for the trust he lost. Jocky Wilson didn't look like an athlete. He didn't talk like one either, but when he stepped up to the oche, you couldn't take your eyes off him. A 2-time world champion from Fife, Scotland, Jocky Wilson was darts in its rawest, most unfiltered form. No polish, no PR machine, just pure, unpredictable brilliance wrapped in a working-class shell. He wasn't a machine like Phil Taylor, he wasn't a showman like Eric Bristow. He was jockey, scruffy hair, missing teeth, pint in hand, and a throw that looked more pub league than professional. And that's why fans loved him. He was one of them. Wilson didn't care about appearances, he didn't rehearse interviews, he didn't play a role. What you saw was exactly what you got. A flawed, fiery competitor who lived for the game and wore every emotion on his face. He had a legendary rivalry with Bristow, fireworks on stage, verbal jabs, tension that felt real, because it was. But even in the heat of battle, Jocky was never fake, never calculating. He just wanted to win. And when he did win, in 1982 and again in 1989, the celebrations weren't choreographed, they were chaotic, authentic, pure joy. Off the stage, Wilson battled demons, health issues, alcoholism, financial struggles. He disappeared from the spotlight after retirement, living a quiet, difficult life away from the game he once ruled. but fans never forgot him. To this day, his name gets chants at tournaments. Clips of his wild walk-ons and explosive finishing still light up social media. For older fans, he's a reminder of dart's gritty golden era. For younger ones, he's a cult hero, the kind you don't get anymore. Jockey Wilson didn't just win trophies, he won people over. And for a sport built on passion, character and imperfection, he was the perfect champion. In darts, love and hate aren't handed out for averages. They're earned, through attitude, through actions, through the moments that stick. And if you thought these names stirred emotion, wait until you meet the player who was universally admired for how he played, and equally despised for everything off the board. Click here to watch the story of darts' most complicated legend, a man fans love to watch and hated to talk about.